Part 1. My name is Adrian, and I'm 23. I just finished college with degrees in computer science and business. I graduated at the top of my class, a first for anyone in my family. You'd think that'd be a big deal, right? Not really. Unless my cousin, Maya, launched a new online shop or my brother Liam had a weekend soccer game. Then suddenly, everyone had time and energy. I paid for school myself. Scholarships, late-night internships, and part-time jobs covered it. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Growing up, I learned to overachieve. I mowed the lawn when Dad's back was bad. I helped Mom with groceries when Liam forgot. I even paid the heating bill last winter when Maya spent her share of the rent. I was the good son, the helpful cousin, the quiet success. My graduation day came and went. No family in the crowd, no calls, no texts, not even a congrats. So I decided to try one last time. I used my savings to book a rooftop place downtown. String lights, city view, and a sound system. I ordered everyone's favorite food. Liam's spicy wings, Maya's veggie pizza, even Grandma's weird thing for fried pickles. I didn't want gifts. Just one night to feel seen. I sent digital invites with calendar reminders. I confirmed with everyone twice. Can't wait, they said. Liars. The night of the party, I arrived early. I checked the food, the drinks, the playlist. I wore my only nice suit, a black slim fit. It was a bit tight, I'd been stressed. I stood by the entrance, smiling at every elevator ding, like a puppy hearing car keys. And then, nothing. 5 minutes became 30, 30 became an hour. The staff gave me awkward looks. Should they clean up? Should they wait? I kept checking my phone. No messages. No traffic updates. I even thought maybe they're planning a surprise. At 8:47 p.m., after 3 sodas, I wondered if I should just go home. Then my phone buzzed. A photo from Maya. Everyone was in it. Liam, Mom, Dad, Uncle Pete, even Grandma. They wore matching pajamas, sprawled on my parents' couch. Pizza boxes everywhere, blankets tossed around. The caption, "Family movie night." We needed this. My fingers froze. I zoomed in. My graduation photo, the one I'd mailed weeks ago, was crooked on the wall, half hidden by balloons from Maya's last online store launch. My mouth went dry. They weren't late. They weren't stuck. They weren't coming. I didn't get mad. I didn't cry. I just sat down. The city noise drowned out the silence in my chest. I scrolled through old messages. Empty promises. Half-hearted. "We're so proud of you. It all led to this." The food got cold. The manager gave me a pitying nod. He wouldn't charge overtime. I just nodded back. I went home to my apartment, paid for by freelance work one did while finishing college. I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling. The same ceiling where I dreamed of big things. Promotions, trips, celebrations where my name wasn't forgotten. Then it hit me. They needed me more than I needed them. That's when I got my laptop. I logged into every shared account. Electricity, internet. Even the streaming service I added Maya to last year because it was too expensive for her. I had set it all up. Every bill, every convenience. It made me feel like I belonged. I paused. This wasn't revenge. Not really. It was about seeing things clearly. No matter how many favors I did, I'd always be a background character in their movie. I sent one group text. "Good luck with next month's bills." Then I blocked every number, every single one. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. 3 days later, the silence broke. And it broke loudly. It started with a Facebook post from Mom. One of those dramatic, vague rants. She thinks it makes her look like a martyr. It just screams guilt trip. Some people forget who was there for them. No names. But the comments exploded. Aunt Beth chimed in. Uncle Pete dropped a spill the tea meme. And Maya, of course, replied, "Family is everything. We're all we have. I watched it all." Like flipping through a magazine I didn't plan to buy. Part of me expected someone to text. Maybe Liam with a weak, "Hey, you okay?" Or Dad pretending he didn't know anything. But no, silence. Until day 4. That morning my phone rang. It was Dad's work number. I hadn't seen it in months. I let it ring. And again. Then Mom's cell. Then Maya. Then a text from Liam's girlfriend. Hey, is everything okay? There seems to be some confusion. I ignored them all. The one that made me laugh, a bitter, sharp laugh, came at 2:19 p.m. Dad texted from his regular number. Why is the internet off? I need it for work. No greeting, no hey, Adrian, no mention of the party, no apology, just a complaint, a demand, a reminder that, to them, I wasn't a son or brother. I was tech support. I didn't reply. I wanted to. I wrote 3 different responses, angry ones, sarcastic ones, one with a link to a therapist. But I just turned off my phone and went to the gym. That night, I had 3 voicemails, all frantic. Mom's voice, high and shaky. We don't understand. Your father can't access his payroll. The smart TV isn't working. Maya can't get into the group plan. What's going on? Please call. Still no sorry we missed your party. Still no we should have been there, just a list of problems that suddenly made me important. By the end of the week, I got actual letters. Because I blocked everything digital. The first was from Grandma. Shaky handwriting. Flowery cursive. Adrian, I don't know what's happening, but everyone is upset. Please call your mother. She's been crying for days. Crying. Now she was crying. Where were the tears when I sat alone on that rooftop, staring at uneaten food? Where were they when I sent my graduation photos and got 3 likes and 0 comments? Where were they when I begged for just one night? Grandma was the only one who never mistreated me. So, I called her. The call made it worse. She answered on the first ring. Relief poured out of her. Oh, thank heavens, Adrian, you had me worried sick. I'm fine, Grandma. I know, honey. But your mother, she's a mess. She says you're acting cold, that you lashed out, shut everything down without warning. I gripped the phone. Did she tell you about my graduation party? Grandma paused. She said there was a scheduling mix-up, that you threw something last minute and didn't confirm with anyone. I felt the heat in my cheeks. A mix-up? I had receipts, calendar invites, text confirmations. I even had a voice memo from Maya saying, "We're all set for Saturday. Can't wait." And now they were telling Grandma I hadn't invited them properly? Grandma, I said, my voice shaking. I sent them everything, weeks in advance. I paid for the venue, the food. I planned it around their schedules. They didn't forget. They chose not to come. Silence. Then her voice, softer. I believe you, but your mother swears. Of course she does. Because if she admits the truth, she'd have to admit she doesn't care. Not unless it benefits her. That's when Grandma said something that stuck with me. You've always been the one trying the hardest, Adrian. Maybe it's time you let them try for once. I didn't say much after that. We said goodbye. I promised to call again, and I meant it. But I didn't unblock anyone. I didn't resume the payments. I didn't give in. Instead, I started living like I was free. Because for the first time in years, I was. Freedom has a funny way of stirring up desperation. And desperate people don't go quietly. Just 1 week later, I came home to something that changed everything. It was a Thursday morning. Sunny. Calm. I'd just gotten back from a client meeting. I felt oddly light. For someone who'd cut off half their family. My apartment was quiet now. A silence I was starting to enjoy. No buzzing texts. No surprise favors. No guilt trips disguised as love. Just me, the hum of the fridge, and my peace. Then I saw the envelope taped to my door. I thought it was a delivery slip. Or a notice. But it had my name, written in thick slanted marker. No return address. No postage. Just taped there, like a kid trying to be dramatic. I pulled it down slowly. I tore it open. One sheet of printer paper. Typed DD double-spaced, angry. Adrian, I don't know who you think you are, but this little tantrum has gone too far. We've bent over backwards for you your entire life, and one missed party doesn't justify this level of disrespect. Your father can't work. Maya lost her streaming, and Grandma is worried sick. You're punishing the whole family because of some imagined slight. It's childish and cruel. I hope you're proud, Mom. No love, no sincerely, no hint of remorse, just an accusation. Like I was an employee they were threatening to fire. I almost laughed. Almost. But it felt like a slap. It didn't sting right away. Just left a deep ache. It crept up my arm and curled around my throat. Because that was the moment I knew there would be no apology, no quiet realization, no heart-to-heart, no teary-eyed visit. My mother wasn't the type to admit she'd treated her child like an afterthought for years. She was the type to rewrite the story, pass it out like the truth, and hope everyone else believed it. And maybe they would have. Maybe Grandma and Liam and the rest would have swallowed it, like every other half-truth she'd served them over the years. But this time, I wasn't staying quiet. That night, I found my old graduation slides, the ones I'd made for the party no one came to. I opened a free website builder. I added the photos, screenshots of every text confirming the invites, receipts for the venue, even the playlist I never got to play. Then I wrote a caption at the top. Here's the graduation party you all missed. Not because you forgot, but because I never mattered enough to show up for. I posted it on social media. Blocked comments, no tagging, just a quiet, permanent record of what happened. Of how I celebrated alone. It blew up. Friends from college sent messages. This broke me. I can't believe they did this. Even people I barely knew shared it, calling it gut-wrenching and the most honest thing I've ever read. By morning, I had 3 missed calls from Maya, 2 from Dad, and a voicemail from Mom. Her voice was trembling now, but still not apologetic. Adrian, this is too far. You're humiliating us. Why are you doing this? Why? Because, for once, they were feeling what I had felt my entire life. Unseen, unheard, unimportant. That weekend, the fallout got worse. Maya showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in. She banged on the door for 5 minutes, then shouted through the wood, "You're not the only one who's been through stuff. We all have our issues." I stood on the other side, arms crossed, silent. Are you seriously going to ghost us forever over a party? It wasn't about the party. It had never been about the party. It was about every time they made me feel like an obligation, not a choice. Every time I was expected to give, only to be told I was too sensitive when I needed something back. It was about the years I made myself small so they could feel bigger. And now that I had taken my voice back, they were scrambling. Not because they cared, but because their comfort was slipping away. A few days later, I found out they were trying to spin the story. Liam made a post about family always being messy but worth fighting for. Maya commented, "People forget how much we did for him." I didn't respond. Not to Maya's shouting. Not to Liam's social media damage control. Not to the stream of guilt-laced messages that trickled in. You're being unfair. We're still family. This isn't how adults handle problems. The irony was thick. I had spent years handling everything for them, like the only adult in the room, while they played emotional hot potato with every problem. But going silent wasn't enough anymore. That only worked until they twisted my absence into a tantrum, a phase, or worse, a betrayal. If I wanted to move on, I had to take back control of the entire story. Not just with receipts, but with finality. So I started cutting cords. Cords they didn't even realize were still attached. First, the finances. I'd been quietly paying for more than just utilities. A few years back, when I got my first decent internship, Mom asked me to add their cell phones to my plan. "It'll save everyone money," she said. I didn't question it. I felt proud, honestly. Like I was finally contributing. That same year, Liam's car broke down. I co-signed on a newer model to help him get a delivery job. Dad said it was temporary, just until Liam built some credit. He never did. Maya once asked for a short-term loan to help with rent until her online store took off. I gave her $1,200. She never mentioned it again. They thought I'd forgotten. They thought I'd never enforce it. They were wrong. I started by closing the phone account. No warning, no grace period. Just gone. I called the provider, explained the situation, and had all 4 lines, mine, theirs, even Maya's, disconnected by the end of the week. I ported my number to a new carrier under a business plan. Next, I called the car dealership. I requested to revoke authorization on Liam's payments. Since the car was technically in my name, and his payments were often late, it was easy to justify. Within 3 days, the car was flagged for repossession. And Maya? I didn't even need to do much. I had the Venmo receipts. I emailed her a formal letter outlining the debt, attached every transaction, and let her know I was turning the balance over to collections within 30 days unless she set up a payment plan. No emotion. Just math. I expected backlash. What I got was panic. Liam called from a random number. Dude, what is this? They're trying to take my car. Mom left a voicemail, sobbing. Adrian, this is too far. You're ruining your own family. Maya emailed, saying she felt blindsided and betrayed. That I was weaponizing money against people who loved me. Loved me? They didn't love me. They loved what I gave them. The money, the favors, the silence. And now that I was taking it away, they were gasping for air in a vacuum of their own making. I stayed silent for another week. Then I wrote one final message. Not to them. To everyone else, I wrote a post. Not angry, not vindictive, just honest. I talked about growing up in a family where I was expected to be in the background, how my successes were downplayed, my milestones ignored, and my support taken for granted. I included no names, no petty details. Just the full truth about the graduation party, the debts, the utility bills I'd been covering for 3 years. I posted it on my personal blog, where only a handful of friends still followed me. Within days, it was shared, and shared again. It didn't go viral, exactly, but it found its way into a lot of inboxes and group chats. I started getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old teachers, classmates, even neighbors who remembered how devoted I was to my family. Most of them said the same thing. I had no idea. You always seemed like the strong one. That was the point. I had always seemed fine because I was conditioned to make everyone else comfortable while I starved for validation. But no more. About 2 weeks after the post, Grandma called. I answered. She was quiet at first. Then she said something that took my breath away. They've started talking. Really talking. Not at you, to each other. I think your silence did what your presence never could. She told me Mom had been forced to ask her own siblings for help, most of whom had kept their distance for years. Liam had started working longer hours. Maya had apparently begun offering flash sales on her store just to keep up with her credit card bills. Now that her rent was back to full price, it wasn't revenge, it was a reckoning. I didn't celebrate their struggles, but I also didn't rush to fix them. For once, I wasn't the cleanup crew. I wasn't the safety net. I was free, and I didn't just sit in that freedom. I built on it. I used the emotional clarity to focus on my career. I launched my own tech consulting firm. I picked up clients who respected deadlines, paid on time, and didn't treat me like an accessory to their own success. I traveled for work. Seattle, Boston, even a stint in Berlin. And every time I saw a rooftop venue or passed a family taking graduation photos, I didn't feel hollow anymore. I felt whole. I still talk to Grandma. She's the only one who never tried to gaslight me into silence. Sometimes she gives me updates, how Liam is slowly growing up, how Mom is quieter now, how Maya is finally learning what a budget is. I don't ask for these details, but I don't stop her either. I think she knows I'm not waiting for redemption. I'm just done. One day, maybe years from now, someone will try to reach out, to apologize. Maybe they'll even mean it. But by then, I won't be waiting, because healing didn't come from hearing sorry. It came from realizing I never needed it in the first place. Story 2, Daniel is my name. I'm 29 years old, and I've been the one keeping things together for the majority of my life while getting held accountable for everything that goes wrong. I promise I'm not exaggerating, even though it seems dramatic. Out of the 3, I am the oldest. Our brother, Corey, is 21 years old, and my younger sister, Vanessa, is 25. Lorraine, my mother, is complex. The kindest word I can think of is that. She has this way of manipulating every circumstance to make herself the victim, even when she's the one setting fire to the place. When I was in high school, my father moved out. He stated he couldn't take it anymore, grabbed a suitcase, and went away one evening without saying goodbye. I was mad at him at the moment. I believed him to be self-centered. I believed he had no concern for us. However, as I grew older, I began to comprehend why Dad went and perhaps why he chose not to look back. I've felt the need to be the glue ever since. I had part-time jobs during my time in college, and I was the one who traveled 3 hours to pick up Vanessa after she broke down during her second year. When Corey dropped out of school to find himself, I was the one who paid for his car repairs and co-signed the lease for his first apartment, all while Mom stayed in the house. treating herself like the family matriarch, bringing up the sacrifices Mother made for us all the time. Never mind that most of her sacrifices were merely things like buying groceries or taking us to school. Simply said, basic parenting. I made an effort to be understanding, though. I didn't want to be the one who was resentful. I reasoned that perhaps if I continued to be the dependable person and show up, things might change. Perhaps she would see me not as she portrayed me, but as I truly was. Easter, however, altered everything. The holiday was meant to be quiet, just some halting small conversation and family fare. I took a plane from out of state and reserved a nearby Airbnb. Even though she kept insisting I could simply remain in the guest room and offered to bring dessert. When I arrived, I even assisted with setting the table and taking away the garbage, only attempting to maintain a lighthearted tone. Vanessa had already taken her normal seat and was looking through her phone detachedly. About halfway through the Easter supper, Corey arrived late as usual, dressed in flip-flops and a t-shirt as though we were eating lunch on the beach. The talk took its customary direction. Mom talks on how back in her day, families were closer and kids weren't so selfish. Perhaps families were closer because the moms didn't play favorites, Vanessa replied, rolling her eyes. By the way, that was courageous of her. Normally, she would just sidestep conflict, but it was obvious that something had also been building inside of her, Mom remarked, calm as anything, as she turned to face me and put her fork halfway to her lips. If we have to be honest, Daniel is the cause of this family's constant disintegration. I wasn't even sure how to react. Anger wasn't expressed. It wasn't that chilly. She seemed to genuinely believe it, as if she had been waiting for the opportunity to speak it out. Vanessa's chewing ceased. When Corey noticed my expression, he chuckled awkwardly and stopped talking. I simply gazed at her, attempting to determine what aspect of myself was deserving of that. "Excuse me," was all I could say. "You've always felt the need to be the martyr," she replied with a shrug. "You want to take credit for things that no one requested you to do, for example. If you can't take hearing the truth, maybe you shouldn't come over." I was affected by the way she stated it. The total rejection, not just the words. I glanced around the table in the hopes that someone would speak, but nobody did. Despite her uneasy appearance, Vanessa remained silent. Mom resumed eating as if she had requested someone to pass the salt, while Corey avoided making eye contact. Slowly, I got to my feet. Despite my trembling palms, I didn't speak louder. I didn't shout or cause a commotion. I just responded, "You got it." After that, I departed. Don't slam doors. Not a showy speech. I left the home on foot. After getting into my rental car, I headed back to my Airbnb. In total quiet, I refrained from crying. I didn't even lose my temper. As if someone had switched a switch inside of me, I felt numb. The problem is that my mother was unaware that I had been paying more than simply emotional reparations for years. I've been paying half the bill since Dad departed, not only transferring money once in a while. I'm referring to their property taxes, utilities, food, and Wi-Fi. A couple occasions when things became tight. She enjoyed acting as though she was the one who kept the house running well. However, they would have been drowned long ago if it weren't for my monthly transfers. She never asked me outright. Obviously not. She would have to admit that she needed me. She simply guilt-tripped me into it. It's known as helping your family. Mention stuff like you wouldn't want your siblings around when the water is turned off. That night, back at my Airbnb, I glanced at the ceiling and realized something I should have noticed years before. No matter how much I contributed, I would always be treated as a scapegoat in that household. When something went wrong, I would always be held responsible. I then launched my laptop and began making adjustments one at a time. I logged into the account's electric, gas, water, internet. I didn't completely cancel anything, that would be too clear. I just indicate the end day of service, erase my name, and stop the automatic payments. I failed to provide a warning, failed to leave a message, just in silence, effectively, kept my hands off the steering wheel. After that, I deleted my card and signed into the joint grocery account I had been making contributions to for years. To take my place as a co-signer on Corey's auto loan, I sent an email to the bank. I paid off most of it previously, and the remaining was little enough that they could figure it out without me. I also phoned the accountant who'd been helping me handle my family support costs and told him the line item was now closed forever. No one was blocked by me. I made no announcements. I simply waited. A week went by. Nothing. Next, 2. Then the phone rang. I was in the middle of preparing breakfast on a Saturday morning when her name rang on my phone. I let it to ring. Once more, it buzzed. Then the text arrived. What's causing the Wi-Fi to malfunction? Unable to watch television. Also, water's off. Is there a problem with the ability to call me? I choose to disregard it. The phone rang once again an hour later. I responded this time. She sounded like she was in complete panic. Everything went out, Daniel. What did you do? In my capacity as your mother, I ask. Why isn't anything functioning? We don't have internet, water, or lighting. Corey is going crazy. What's happening? Calm as possible, I carefully mixed my egg and simply remarked, I suppose the utilities were taken with the family disgrace. Everything really began to go apart when I hung up the phone. After I stopped the conversation, there was a deafening quiet, yet it felt right. I saw the mayhem breaking out back at the home as I sat there in my small kitchen eating toast and eggs as if it were just another Saturday. As her phone buzzed with alerts about overdue bills and service provider warning emails, I imagined my mother pacing in her slippers and screaming about disrespect and treachery. It was not even retaliation. Not at all. For the first time in years, it was recently released. The role she had written for me was no longer a part of me. Vanessa texted around an hour later. It only asked if you had turned off the electricity. It wasn't because I was upset with her that I didn't respond. No, I wasn't. In fact, I felt terrible for her. She had been disregarded and undervalued for years, but she chose to remain silent in order to survive. Unlike me, I couldn't let that get to me. However, I also couldn't act as though she wasn't involved. Mom cut me open in front of everyone while I was sitting there on Easter. Then Corey arrived. His prose was now a masterwork of guilt-tripping that was passive-aggressive. Very mature, dude. Simply end it all and leave us in suspense. Adult up. There is no punctuation. Nothing that before this has been acknowledged. Just entitlement wrapped in the tone of a kid who never had to clean up after himself. By Sunday morning, I had erased it after reading it twice. 3 times as many calls had been missed. Corey, Mom. I even received voicemails from Anthony, who hadn't talked to me in months, inquiring about my situation. Sweetheart, Anthony's message was very rich. Your mom is inconsolable. You attacked them and left them, she said. You're not like that. Can't you just have an adult conversation about this? The way she said lashed out made it sound like I'd thrown a chair or screamed obscenities when in reality I had just left. I came to another realization at that point. They lost electricity, but they weren't freaking out. They had lost control and were in a panic. I served as their invisible insurance policy and failsafe, the voiceless, steady paycheck. The ATM that included free therapy and tech support. No more. My mother sent me a message on Monday morning that truly caused me to take a moment to think. I don't know who you think you are, it said. You've been dramatic all your life, made everything about you all the time. Congratulations then. You've demonstrated your argument. Now switch everything back on, or I'll go to your boss and expose your true nature. I blinked. The complete revelation was there. Take off the mask. There was no remorse at all, only threats, manipulation, and the constant belief that I owed her something, that she was in a position of power. It nearly made me chuckle. She didn't know. My boss didn't know where I worked anymore. Actually, I changed jobs over a year ago. But the fact that she thought that was her trump card, that told me everything I needed to know. I replied with just 3 words. Don't bother trying. There is no punctuation. Just like Corey, I blocked her number after that. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. I needed space, real space. I wasn't going to let her barge back into my life like nothing had happened, just because the house got a little dark. A week passed, then 2 by the 3rd week. Vanessa messaged again. This time it wasn't a question. It was a photo. It showed the front porch of the house, our old childhood home. But it was different. Trash bags piled up near the front steps. A notice on the door and sitting on the porch steps was Corey hoodie pulled over his head, staring at the ground. Vanessa's message read, "They're struggling, but Mom won't admit it. She keeps saying the bank messed something up." I didn't answer that one either, because while they were struggling, I was starting to feel peaceful for the first time in my adult life. I had a savings account that wasn't bleeding money every month. I started cooking more, sleeping better, even picked up a hobby again. Photography, something I hadn't done since college. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. And being done came with a strange kind of clarity. Then came the email subject. Daniel, please. It was from Mom. No threats this time. No accusations. Just a long, rambling email about how hard things have been, how no one could have predicted the economy, how Corey's struggling and Vanessa won't step up. Then the kicker? I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we're still family and family supports each other. I stared at those words for a long time because I agreed with them. Family does support each other, but not like that. Not with strings. Not with guilt. Not when one person carries the weight while everyone else lounges on the cart and calls it teamwork. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a short message. Can we review the support agreement I had in place? I'd need an official letter written saying that I'm no longer financially connected. He responded within the hour, already working on it. And it was the moment I knew there was no going back. But then, just as I was settling into this new phase of peace, something unexpected happened. A knock on my flat door. It was approximately 9 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, I froze. Standing there, looking fatigued and somehow vulnerable, was Vanessa. She didn't say anything at first, just held out a grocery bag and said, I brought that to you. Like the strange one with lavender and hibiscus. I opened the door for her. She sat on the couch, looked about, and eventually remarked, The home is coming apart, Danny. I gave a nod. She moved on. I'm not here to make you feel bad. I had to go. Now they are accusing one another. Yesterday, Corey yelled at his mother, claiming that he was never intended to be raised in a dysfunctional household. Did she blame you once more? I informed her that I no longer trusted her. I wasn't prepared for how hard that hit. I inquired, Why are you actually here then? She gave a shrug, as I also want to go, but I don't know how to start. And that's it. The dynamic altered. The scapegoat was no longer me. The escape path was myself. I took a while to respond. For a while, we sat in quiet. She was snuggled up on the sofa as she used to be when we were kids, and I was in the armchair. She also experienced nightmares. This time, however, the nightmare was genuine, and we were both awake during it. I looked at her face. Vanessa had always been the quiet one, the peacekeeper. Early on, she discovered that playing along and keeping her head down was the best way to keep her mother from becoming upset. Her eyes had changed, though, as if she had grown weary of shrinking. She continued, You know what she said the other day, after carefully setting the tea, that you believed you were superior to everyone else at all times, that you intended to discipline us? No, I told her. Daniel simply stopped being trampled underfoot. She probably didn't understand how much that meant. I had been observing what was truly happening and feeling alone for years. Mom had a way of making people doubt themselves, of distorting reality just enough to make you wonder what you remember. And it was simple to question whether I was the issue when no one defended me. However, after learning that, Vanessa also witnessed it. It seemed like something heavy moved off my chest. What now? I asked her. What are you interested in doing? She paused. I've been considering relocating, acquiring a home of my own, perhaps even relocating out of state. However, I'm afraid. I've never done anything without her breathing down my neck. Then perhaps you should learn how, I said softly. You have earned the right to live for yourself. She gave me a little smile as she looked up. Is it too late, in your opinion? I gave a headshake. No, but you need to quit requesting permission to be here. That's the first step. She gave a nod. And it seemed like we were truly having a sibling moment for the first time in a long time. Just two individuals who had spent too much time in the same storm and were now beginning to dry land, not tents, not required. During a lonely winter years ago, she spent the night sleeping on the pull-out couch while covered by the blanket I had purchased. We had breakfast together in the morning. Just fruit, bread, and some stillness that wasn't awkward for once nothing spectacular. She looked to me at the door before she went. You need not be concerned. I will not return there. I arched an eyebrow. Are you certain? She grinned. Yes. I suppose I'm finally done playing her games. She was gone after that. What happened next caught me off guard. Not an email, but a letter. Not a text. Our family's address was written in Mom's cursive on a real handwritten letter in a light blue envelope. I considered discarding it, but I decided to open it for inspection. There was only one page of paper inside. No salutations. Don't apologize. Just this. I hope you feel proud of who you are. Your siblings are now against me because of you. This family is broken because of you. Just because you have some money and a fancy horse doesn't mean you're superior to us. You'll be the one in need of assistance one day. And nobody is going to come get you. No return address, no signature. It was nearly comical. She couldn't resist playing the victim. Even in writing. No reflection, no ownership, just resentment cloaked in blame. I carefully folded the letter before putting it in the shredder. I made myself a drink that evening and sat on my balcony to watch the city lights change. I reflected on all that I had lost and everything that I had at last left behind. I also didn't feel like the bad guy for once. I felt as though I had at last rescued myself. I was about to close that chapter, though. I received a call from an unidentified number. I typically wouldn't have taken it up, but something told me to answer. "Daniel Carson?" said a rough voice on the other end. "Who is inquiring?" "It's Dave. I live next door to your mom. Despite the fact that we haven't met, you might want to stop by. Something happened." My heart stopped. What sort of thing happened? He paused. "She's all right. Physically, that is. However, in addition to the police, a child services representative also arrived. I assumed you would be curious. Child services? Yes. A woman and her 2 children have been staying at your mom's house. No clean water, no heat, no amenities. An anonymous report was made." I reclined, stunned. Mom had always been theatrical, but this was different. Allowing strangers to dwell in filth in the house we grew up in. "I appreciate the call." Numbly, I said, "I'll work it out." As soon as I ended the call, in my mind, the pieces began to fit together. She wasn't just going downhill. She was pulling people along with her into the abyss. And there would be documentation, documents, and an investigation if the state became involved. It dawned on me that there was more going on. Mom wasn't only resentful. Like everyone else, she was desperate. They pose a threat. With my pulse racing, I opened my laptop and began writing an affidavit for my lawyer that detailed all of the financial things I had done for her over the years. Each and every bank receipt, cosign, stored email, and payment. She wanted to take someone with her if she decided to burn down, so I realized I had to defend myself, and I had no intention of letting that happen to me. Over the course of the following 2 days, I collected all of the old emails, utility confirmations, transfer receipts, and even screenshots of text conversations in which she praised me in return for helping with the water or keeping the lights on like a nice sun shirt. I was no longer gathering it only for self-defense. She was going to start a storm, and I was erecting a wall between us. The storm did indeed arrive on Friday morning. A social worker sent me an email. Her message was professional, courteous, and frightening. She had learned that I had previously provided care or financial assistance while she was looking into dangerous living circumstances at my mother's house. She asked whether I would mind giving some background. Before Easter, I would have freaked out. I would have given up everything, called my mother, asked what took place, offered to send money to assist her get through or to help clean up. But I was no longer that person. In my carefully worded response to the social worker, I stated that I had provided financial assistance to the family for years, that I had recently stopped doing so due to frequent emotional abuse, and that I had no legal or custodial relationships with any of the current residents of that house. I thanked her for getting in touch and gave a PDF of my collected documents. No feelings, no guilt, only the facts. After an hour, I received a reply. "I appreciate your cooperation and openness. This will be very useful in figuring out how much accountability there is. We will follow up if more explanation is needed." At least legally, it was the end of it. Mom wasn't doomed, though, by no means. My door was knocked on later that evening. Rain was falling heavily. I opened the video halfway through, thinking I may see Vanessa again or a box, but instead I saw Mom's hair drenched, her makeup smudged, her eyes crazy, and Corey holding an umbrella behind her, as if it were the world's final line of defense. Without saying hello, she said, "I have to come in." I remained still. Why? Her voice broke. Since this family is disintegrating, Daniel, you're standing there, seemingly oblivious to what's happening. I inhaled deeply. You said that I was the cause of its disintegration. Remind yourself in front of everyone at Easter. She used a shawl to sweep it off. You're still on that, Daniel. I felt irritated. When people are pushed, they say things. You weren't shoved. I answered calm. You meant it. You always mean it when it comes to me. Corey moved forward. Speak quietly. Come on, Dan. This is becoming unmanageable. The state is considering taking the house back. An inspection has been planned. Mom is unstable, they claim. She is? Before I could stop myself, I said. She gaped in surprise. Please pardon me. I gave her a direct look. In a house without running water, you let strangers with children to dwell. When the services I paid for stopped working, you blamed me. Never once have you accepted responsibility for anything. You have no idea what it's like, she yelled, raising 3 children by themselves. Left behind. Not given enough credit. I never left you, I remarked, raising my voice a little. For years, I carried you. I paid the bills. Your mess was cleaned up by me. In order to save this family from drowning, I put my life on hold. And you humiliated me in public as payback. By turning my siblings against me. By taking advantage of me. For a minute, her expression contorted. She turned around as usual, but I saw something shatter in her eyes. With your apartment, your menial job, and your independence, you feel like you're so much better than us now. But I had nothing once your father departed. I constructed what I could. And you've only destroyed it. I had the option to argue. Instead of shouting back, I widened the door to allow them out rather than let them in. Mom, you are not welcome here. And until you receive assistance, genuine assistance, nothing remains for us to discuss. She gazed at me, enraged and dumbfounded. Corey appeared to be about to speak, but instead he followed her back into the rain while keeping his gaze fixed on the ground. I stood there for a while after locking the door and closing it, simply breathing. Vanessa called that evening. I told her everything. She said that she didn't weep or panic. Excellent. You finally drew the line. It was then that we began to communicate more frequently. She followed through on her intention to move out. She signed up for night classes, got a tiny studio across town, and increased her hours at work. We kept each other informed, but we didn't discuss Mom much. The last time we heard, the inspection was a failure. The lady and her children were taken from the house by Child Services. The house was inspected for any infractions of the code. After a while, Corey moved in with some pals. Vanessa also learned that Mom moved in with Aunt Denise. Even that, though, was only temporary. As for me, I got promoted, moved to a bigger apartment, started volunteering on weekends. I gave up waiting for unanswered SMS, letters, or invites to holidays. And for the first time in more than 10 years, I didn't get a guilt-ridden phone call or a package of handmade cookies with an obligation list on my birthday. In the end, I didn't need retribution, so it seemed like everything when I got nothing. I didn't have to return the harm. All I had to do was stop allowing her to harm me. I believe the loudest message I could have ever delivered was when she finally realized she could no longer control me and was made to sit in the same stillness she used as a weapon. Not a tear, not a word, not a smell, just tranquility. And it was sufficient for the first time in my life. Story 3. I'm Jake, a 26-year-old who lived with my parents until a few months ago. Not voluntarily, but because I was attempting to assist them. My dad had been laid off the year before, and my mom's hours got slashed, so I moved back in to chip in. I paid for the internet, the energy, and even the majority of the groceries. I assumed it was only temporary, but it wasn't glamorous. To pay for it, I was doing freelance work in addition to my full-time job as a web developer. I had no idea how quickly I would go from being the household hero to being viewed as an unwanted guest. Everything appeared to be all right at first. They were appreciative, or they acted as though they were. My mother used to say things like, "Jake, you're really stepping up," or "We're lucky you're here." However, that was quickly off. The tone changed after the initial months. They began to remark, little jabs that seemed insignificant at the time. "You're always in front of that laptop," my dad used to remark. "Never lend a hand around here." My mother would mumble, "You know, you still live under our roof," even though I was covering half of the expenses. Even so, I dismissed it if I didn't instantly comply with her wishes. I believed that stress had an effect on individuals, yet things continued to become worse. I purchased food, my own money. Label a few items that I like to keep private, please. The next day, lost. No justification. My mom just shrugged and said, "Don't be selfish, Jake." My dad was wearing my expensive Bose noise-canceling headphones, which I use for freelancing meetings, when I arrived home from work late one evening. These were merely laying around. When I requested him to, he said, "Next time, please inquire." He sneered. "You behave as though you own the entire home." Again, I said nothing. Perhaps the first made a mistake. I remained silent for too long. Then the actual blow struck. The night was a Friday. After a rigorous week of meetings, I was already psychologically exhausted, which is why I recall. I was not welcomed with a "Hello, how was your day?" As I arrived at the door, fatigued, with a full-on lecture though. At the bottom of the steps was my mother, crossed arms, eyes squinted. "We must speak," she said. These days, my mother's style of speaking resembles cross-examination in a trial. She began accusing me of rudeness, acting as like I owned the property, and failing to do my share of the work. I was taken aback. "What are you talking about?" I inquired. "I'm paying for half the costs. I purchased the food. I haven't even made any requests of you," she interrupted me at that point. "Jake, you are only a visitor to this house. Don't behave as like you belong here." The words hit me like a slap. Visitor. I was about to say anything after what I had done. Anything. However, I never even had the opportunity. She retrieved my work-related bag from the hallway closet and tossed it down the stairs. It fell close to my feet with a dull thump after bouncing off the last step. "Go remain someplace," she said. "You're wanted," as if she were chasing away a complete stranger rather than her own kid. Stunned, I gazed at her. Without a word, my dad just folded his arms and stood behind her. His quiet was a powerful statement. I refrained from arguing. I didn't shout. I simply went upstairs, picked up the suitcase, and began packing. I just had a few books, my tech equipment, and some clothing. However, everything seemed unreal. My heart thumping in my chest, I packed everything quietly. I wasn't furious yet. I simply felt numb. I kept asking myself, was this real? Did they really throw me out like that? I slipped everything into my car that evening. Doors weren't slammed by me. I didn't even switch on the driveway lights. I simply walked out, drove to a hotel in the area, and reserved a room for a couple of nights. As of yet, I had no plan. I simply knew that I couldn't turn back. Not after that. The anger began to seep in the following morning. I looked at my banking app on my phone, monthly automatic payments. I'd been paying half of their grocery bill, their internet, and their energy. Like clockwork, hundreds of dollars were lost. Thank you, but no. No acknowledgement. Down the stairs, just insults in a suitcase. I stopped them as a result. Each and every one. My account was shut down by the electricity. Internet was shut down. I transferred my grocery budget to my own refrigerator. Wherever my next landing was, I kept it from them. I didn't have to. Soon enough, they would learn the truth. There was radio quiet for a time. I spent a week at that motel. After finding a short-term rental, they began assembling a longer-term solution. Life was calmer and lighter. Yes, I missed the comforts of home, but not the animosity. No, not the sense of alienation in my own family's home. I was breathing again at last. Then it occurred approximately 4 weeks later. My dad's message appeared on my phone. Only one phrase. The power just got shut off. No. Hi there? No. How are you? No background. Simply put, I typed back the message after staring at it for a full minute. I put my phone on silent, and I suppose the guests took the electricity with them. My dad had left me 15 missed calls by the following morning from my mother, my sister, 2 aunts, and a few unidentified family members I hadn't spoken to in months made up the remainder. It seems that word of suburban nowhere's massive power outage spread through the family more quickly than I had anticipated. I didn't even listen to the voicemails at first. Before I hit play, I knew what they would say. Perplexity, to blame, charges, perhaps some guilt trip lines thrown in. These strategies were the ones I had grown up with. In my family, emotional baiting was almost a second language, but after everything that happened, I was done translating. Finally, out of curiosity, I listened to one. It was my mom. Her voice was sharp, high-strung. "Jake, this isn't amusing. Your father had to sit in the dark last night. We couldn't even charge our phones. The food in the fridge is going bad. And your sister's coming over for dinner tonight. We're not going to let you sabotage this family just because you're feeling dramatic. Give me a call back." Sabotage, dramatic. I wasn't even surprised. That's how she saw it. Me taking care of my own life was sabotage, because it meant I was no longer propping up hers. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because while they were melting down in the dark, I was sitting in my new apartment, feet up on a little IKEA coffee table, sipping coffee in peace. I'd finally signed a lease for a place of my own. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom with good lighting and decent Wi-Fi. But it was mine, and for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like a burden. What's wild is they still didn't seem to realize what they'd done. It wasn't just about the utilities. It was about everything that led up to that night. The gaslighting, the entitlement, the way they twisted kindness into obligation. All those months of me helping, giving, showing up reduced to "don't act like you belong here." And it didn't stop at the electricity. A few days later, my dad texted me again. "Dad, internet's down too. Did you overlook making another payment?" Again? There was no again. I never missed a payment in my life. I always made sure they had what they needed on time. Every time. And now that I wasn't doing it, they acted like it was an oversight. Like I had simply forgotten my duties instead of choosing to stop being their unpaid utility fairy. So I typed a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Eventually I settled on, "That must be hard. I hope you figure something out," said it moved on. A few hours later, my sister called. Now for context. My sister Liz has always been the golden child. She lives 2 hours away and visits maybe 3 times a year. But when she shows up, it's with gifts and big hugs and Instagram captions like "nothing like family time." Then she drives off in her Tesla while I'm left sweeping up after dinner. She didn't call to check on me. No. "Hey Jake, how are you?" Just straight into it. "What the hell is going on?" She snapped. "Why are mom and dad saying you shut off their power and Wi-Fi? Are you actually punishing them just because you had your feelings hurt?" "My sentiments hurt?" I inhaled. "Liz." They threw my bag down the stairs and instructed me to go where I was wanted. So I did. There was stillness on the other end, then a scoff. "You're so theatrical." There it was again. The word of the hour. I refrained from arguing. I just said, "Look, I'm not paying for people that don't respect me. If it makes me the villain in their tale, then be it." She hung up a few minutes later, still upset. But something about the way she concluded the phone made me assume she wasn't calling only for their sake. Maybe part of her was starting to question how things got so horrible. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to win her over. I was done trying to win anyone over. A couple more days passed. My mother left me another voicemail. This one is calmer and less irate. "Jake, this isn't you, and I'm not sure what's going on with you. You don't simply abandon your family. You're superior than this." I was affected by that one. I will not lie for a moment. That tug was felt by me. Every time I confronted them, that old guilt made me doubt myself. Perhaps I'm being too severe. Perhaps I should give them a call. After that, though, I surveyed my apartment, my personal area. No resentful silence, no chilly shoulders, just tranquility. And I recalled, the person who left is not me. They did. I was thrown out, referred to me as a visitor, helped them survive, which made me feel like a burden. I simply stopped filling the hole. They continued to dig. I wasn't supposed to restore their self-esteem or make up for being the child they didn't understand the value of. I eventually banned their numbers that weekend. It's for self-preservation, not malice. I required time and space. Keep quiet. Before I permanently left, I posted a message on our old family group chat. I appreciate the reminder. Being a guest in my own life is preferable to being a prisoner in yours. I logged out after that. However, it wasn't the end. Because something occurred that caused things to blow up again right when I thought the turmoil had finally subsided. I was halfway through preparing the week's meals. When my phone died, I had my headphones on, a music playing, and I was cutting veggies in my little but cozy kitchen. The subject line was an email. "Notice of account default is urgent." It was from the energy business. I initially believed that they could have emailed the incorrect individual by accident. However, upon opening it, I saw that it was unquestionably addressed to me. The problem was that it didn't come from my present address. It came from the address of my parents. I went cold. There was a short phrase in the midst of the message that explained it all. For service at old address, your name is presently displayed as the primary account holder. I would turn off autopay. I never altered the account name, but I had taken the card out. That meant the outstanding invoices now accumulating up penalties were still theoretically under my name, and if they kept defaulting, the debt would come back to me on my credit. I felt sick to my stomach. I hadn't thought about that. Before leaving, I need to have completely transferred the account. A rookie error. I attempted to change the name when I accessed the corporate portal, but I was unsuccessful. Not without the present residents' signatures. My folks. Naturally. After calling the customer support line right away, I waited on hold for what seemed like hours. A very nice woman clarified that I had continued to be the official account holder until the residents filed a change of responsibility form. If they so desired, they could continue to accrue outstanding invoices in my name, and the business would be pursuing me legally. So let me get this straight, I said, walking around my living room. They dwell there. I bear the penalties when they abuse their position. I'm truly sorry, sir, she added. And she did seem really empathetic. This occurs more frequently than you may imagine. I ended the call. My heart is racing. I wasn't yet upset. I was taken aback. I had left. I had said nothing. For the one thing, though, they were now dragging me back in. I neglected to set the paper trail on fire. So weeks ago, I took the proper action. I drove back to take care of business, not to make amends or provide an explanation. Returning to that area was an odd experience. Since the night they tossed my bag down the stairs, I hadn't been back. When I pulled into the driveway, my palms were sweaty. The home had the same appearance. My dad had always detested the fact that the porch light was on, even during the day. The irony is that it increases the cost. I approached the door and knocked without success. I knocked more forcefully this time. At last, I heard footsteps. My mother was standing there when the door opened, crossed arms. Her eyes narrowed as if she had been anticipating an unpleasant visitor. "What are you looking for?" she asked bluntly. I held up the utility company's form. "You must sign this. The power is being used by you. This is where you reside. You accept accountability." The paper caught her eye as if it were offensive. "Until you give me an explanation for your behavior, I won't sign anything." That was it. At that point, the frustration erupted. All of the entitlement, guilt-tripping, and unspoken animosity. Before I could stop it, it rushed up in my chest and came out. "Why? This is how I am behaving. I was only a guest, you said. I was thrown out like a stray by you. And now you want me to accept the blame for the electricity bill? You're not paying." She appeared surprised, but she bounced back fast. "Don't misrepresent this. We didn't tell you to go. You choose to leave. And now you're attempting to discipline us by ignoring us and portraying us as unreliable members of the family?" "No," I responded in a stern voice. "Yes, you told me to go." "Go," you said. "Remain where you are desired." So I did. I'm urging you to accept responsibility now. This isn't retaliation. There are repercussions. I gave the paperwork to her once more. She didn't move on from it. My dad showed up in the hallway, crossed arms, observing, naturally. "Jake," he said, "you're going overboard. It wasn't necessary for you to turn everything off and make things more difficult than they had to be." I gave a brief, resentful laugh. "This wasn't made difficult by me. I made it equitable. You want to utilize the Wi-Fi, the refrigerator, and the lights. They are paid for by you. That's the nature of adulthood. Respect operates in this way." My mother sighed. "Bills are not the only issue here. This family is being destroyed by you." "No," I said, taking a step back. "The night you made me feel like a renter in my own house was the last straw." After placing the paperwork on the door, I turned to go. "Put your signature on it, or don't. However, you will be responsible for the next late fines, not me." I heard her calling my name as I turned to go. I didn't stop, though. I didn't turn around. I climbed into my vehicle and drove away, heart racing yet feeling lighter with every mile. It wasn't until a week later that I received an email from the utility provider confirming the account responsibility transfer that I finally found out what they had decided. My parents didn't leave a message. Don't apologize. No recognition, nothing but quiet. But then all I ever wanted was silence. Or until the next family get-together when everything I had managed to avoid suddenly returned. Additionally, I learned that they had a new target, and I wasn't going to keep silent this time. The next family gathering was Easter brunch. I would normally have ignored it. In fact, I was fully planning to skip it. However, the day before, I received an unexpected message from my cousin Sarah. "Hey, are you coming tomorrow?" she wrote. "You ought to. It's strange." I took a long look at her message before responding. I answered, "Strange," like how Sarah texted. "Both you and Zoe have been the subject of your mother's remarks. My younger cousin, Zoe. Probably one of the only members of our extended family who had never treated me like a walking ATM. She was just 19 years old and just finished her first year of college. Lovely child. Keep quiet," I answered. I always helped clean up after dinners when no one else would. "What sort of things?" Sarah sent a text. She is attempting to blame her for the overdue debts. Said that Zoe never reimbursed them for the money she borrowed because lately she has become a financial burden. Such as, my stomach twisted. In the most perverse way imaginable, everything made sense. A fresh scapegoat was required. A youthful person who was less inclined to resist. Zoe was also at risk. Because her dorms were closed and she didn't want to return home, she had spent her spring break sofa surfing. I took a while to respond. I just boiled as I gazed at the television. They knew nothing. Nothing based on our interactions. Nothing as a result of the repercussions. Nothing came from my silence with them. Reflection was not what they desired. They wanted different aim, so I went. Not out of duty. It's not sentimental. Someone had to go, so I did. The event occurred at my aunt and uncle's residence this year. A large brunch in the backyard. Pastel tablecloths on white plastic tables. Platters of fruit from Costco. Chairs that fold up. The traditional feel of a family gathering. Everything looked normal. However, the chatter subsided a bit as soon as I got out of my car and entered the backyard. People turned. Eyes trailed behind. There she was. Mom. Hands full with a tray of deviled eggs, blouse ironed to perfection, grinning as if our relationship had never occurred, like I hadn't left home, as though she hadn't informed me that I wasn't welcome. She didn't say hello. She made no move to nod. As if I hadn't been there, she simply returned to arranging the food, but I wasn't here for her. I noticed Zoe going through her phone while seated alone at a table close to the rear. "Put on your earbuds." When she noticed me, her eyes widened a little and she glanced up. Then she grinned. Little but genuine. "Hello." Sitting next to her, I said. "You arrived," I said. She said, "Are you all right?" After a moment's hesitation, she shrugged. "Yes, I'm simply keeping quiet." "Your mother has been strange." I leaned closer. I heard Sarah told me. Her expression stiffened. Aunt Dana was informed that I had been stealing their money. That even though I haven't seen them in months, I owe them several $100s. "You know nothing about them?" I spoke aggressively. Her jaw tensed as she nodded. "I understand, but when they start talking, nobody ever responds. Individuals. Just not even Uncle Gary. He is also more aware." I sat back and observed the yard. At the grill was my father. My sister and the children were snapping selfies. Everyone pretended not to notice the tension as my mom poured juice into paper cups in a manner reminiscent of a suburban monarch. That's when I decided what to do. I got to my feet. "Hurry up," to Zoe, I said. "Are you not going to hide back here while the rest of the family makes fun of you?" "Jake, believe me." My mother was setting a centerpiece on the main table when I walked right over there. I picked up the cake knife and tapped it on the plate, and she glanced up just in time. "Continue to clink?" A few people looked around. "Hello!" My voice rose as I said, "Sorry to interrupt. I just had a few things to say." Through the relatives' eyes, you could hear the collective sigh. My mother froze in mid-step. "I am aware that speeches are not often given at Easter breakfast," I said in a clear, calm voice. However, because everyone is here, I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to clarify anything. I looked over at them. I left my parents' place a few months ago, not because I discovered my ideal apartment, fell in love, or obtained a job out of town. My mother informed me I was only a visitor at this house, so I departed. She instructed me to go stay someplace and hurled my luggage down the stairs. They wanted me, so I did, respectfully and quietly. The quiet was genuine now, palpable. Apparently, though, that was insufficient, because my parents chose to start telling others that I abandoned them rather than take responsibility for what occurred. I interrupted them to tell them that I was punishing them. My mom had a crimson face. "Now, Jake, it's not." "No, Mother." With a sharp voice, I said, "The story is no longer within your control." I swiveled around and waved Zoe toward me. After hesitating, she got up and came to stand beside me. After I laid a touch on her shoulder, they are now circulating false information about Zoe, accusing her of stealing from them and owing them money, because she is now the issue. I surveyed the yard. What you all think of me doesn't matter to me. I could come out as theatrical to you. Perhaps you believe that I overreacted. It's okay, but Zoe doesn't deserve this. There is nothing wrong with her. You may also be contributing to the issue if you're the type of person who hears these stories and simply nods in agreement without seeking the other viewpoint. For a solid tens, nobody talked. The yard looked like a still image. One of my uncles then mumbled slowly, "I had no idea it was that way." Another aunt said, "She informed me that you relocated due to a job opportunity." My mother appeared enraged. I believed her teeth could break because of how tightly her jaw was clenched. "This isn't the place or the time, Jake." "It's funny," I murmured as I picked up my plate, "because neither the time nor the location was appropriate when you tossed me out." I went to the buffet table, picked up a piece of quiche, and then I sat down next to Zoe again, as if nothing had occurred. It remained quiet for the remainder of the breakfast. My parents departed early. Zoe grinned not just courteously, but my sister didn't say goodbye. I grinned as if I had finally noticed the equilibrium beginning to change. She emailed me a few weeks later to tell me that she had found an inexpensive sublet with a roommate and landed a job at a nearby bookshop. "I'm glad to have her back," she said. I always told her. My parents and I haven't communicated since. I had heard rumors that they needed to start properly budgeting at last. They even started working part-time. When they saw that no one was buying it anymore, they ceased to be the victims. And me? I'm living my life not as a guest, nor as a burden, but as someone who finally chose to stop begging for space and start taking it.